Hello and welcome back to the TCG this time around. You know, I was so inspired by Master Duel and Colossus and Snow being legal in the game and Snow being recently unbanned on the TCG ban list. I mean, this was how I reacted to Snow being unbanned. I thought I have to give a Chaos Snow deck a try. You know, I have to build it. It's been working reasonably well. Currently, we're ranking 26 on the dueling book ladder, so that's reasonably alright. It's still very early on in the format, but I have actually faith in this deck. When I play it, I feel confident. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in the list as well as in the gameplay for me. I have also seen many other good players that are usually high rated that I sort of follow on Dueling Book play around with the 60 card Chaos version. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this deck can contest in the current format. Obviously, Scythe is going to be a kind of a problem for a 60 card deck. As always, before we talk about the individual cards, I mean, with 60 cards, it's quite overwhelming. Let's talk about what the game plan of this deck is. What is sort of the theory we wanted to realize before going into building this deck? So I was like, I want to abuse Snow as much as possible. And abusing Snow is much easier in a 60 card deck than in a 40 card deck. Because 60 card decks usually focus on getting a lot of cards in the graveyard first to then, you know, do certain stuff, have graveyard triggers, have banish triggers, and then Snow sort of works in tandem with them. Now, Snow is a broken card. Of course, you know it. If it's normal or special, you can target a face-up monster on the field, or your opponent controls rather, and change it to face-on defense position, book it face down. You have to banish 7 other cards from your hand, field, and or grave. So, of course, if you play payoffs like the Thunder Dragons, when they're banished or sent from the field to the grave, you get various effects. Snow is very good. We've discovered this already in Master Duel together. So let's talk about the game plan. We tried going first to go for Curious. Curious can mill any card from your deck to the grave, any card. We tried to mill Snow, then with Curious and any other extender that we have, we tried to go into Apollousa, and then if possible, we either go for Anaconda with Fusion Destiny and IP, if we have the possibility, and if we have the possibility, even go for a Savage sometimes. Now, for you to have a Savage on top of it, you have to have quite a lot of gas, but IP, Anaconda, Apollousa with Snow and Grave is already very good, because one of the main issues about Thunder Dragons in the past in the TCG was that it couldn't play through a card like Dark Ruler no more, right? It was a one card that completely destroyed your deck, or Droplet, for example, yeah? Droplet is the card that we also play in this deck. It's a card that completely destroyed your deck. The main issue is that your interruption is not spreaded. You only have your interruption on the field. You make super strong monsters, but your opponent doesn't care about that. If they just Dark Ruler it, break your board, and put up their own field. So Snow sort of eliminates that problem on its own, which is pretty crazy. It's not a once per turn effect. You can use this multiple times. If you have an IP Masquerena or a DPE with it on the field, you can use the Snow, put it on the field, book an opponent's monster face down, use the DPE, destroy your own Snow, use the Snow again. It's nuts. Now, how do we achieve the Snow being in the graveyard every single game? Well, one of the ways we try to do it is by summoning Dark Beckoning Beast. On normal summon, this is a 1-card Curious, as well as the opening of the Spirit Gates, which searches your Dark Beckoning Beast. You normal this, you get out your Chaos Summoning Beast from your deck basically, you turn this into Linkuribo, you use the spells effect to summon back the Chaos Summoning Beast, go into Anima, because it's level 1, you do the Anima under the Linkuribo, and then you go for Curious, and you mill Snow. You mill 3 additional cards, so in your best case scenarios, you mill something like a Roar, something like a Dark, and use your Snow to even extend your place going first. Of course, the other engine that we play is a Thunder Dragon engine. So the Thunder Dragon engine is the engine that works best as your payoff engine with the Snow. So something you could also think about is playing the Jesse Cotton list that we've played in Master Duel as well, where it's the 60 card list with zombie cards that also can go easily for Chaos Ruler, which is one of the best synchros in the game, of course. But the thing I was thinking about, and I was a bit selfish here, I gotta say, I just wanted to abuse Thunder Dragons as much as possible, and having the option to trigger these on your opponent's turn with Snow, it's crazy, right? You can trigger your Dark, your Hawk, your Roar. In a previous version of this deck, I even played Ash Blossom, where sometimes if you had 4 cards at the end of your turn in your hand, because you have 2 Thunder Dragons or something in your hand, you can use the Hawk on your opponent's turn and put all 4 into the deck and draw an Ash or something. We also play 1 Fusion just so we can get out the Titan go in second as an aggressive play. And 2 Roar, 2 Dark is sort of like, it's just the minimum ratio. I found that with 3-3 I bricked a bit too much, so that's why I put it down to 2. 3 Allure, of course, as a big payoff engine for the Thunder Dragons. Then Chaos Space, we play this with the Baby Dragons, as well as a Chaos Creator that we can search, as well as Orbital Hydrolander. Orbital Hydrolander being one of the newest additions that I've just added to the deck. I don't know if this is going to work really well, but I wanted to try it out. For the gameplay that we're going to look at, you're not going to see Orbital Hydrolander in there. Probably Ash instead of it. I swapped out the two because maybe I thought that even going second in Ash is not as impactful as an Orbital Hydrolander. This helps you push through both so well. With Snow, you can control your grave so easily that Orbital Hydrolander becomes a lot better. So that's all the targets that we have for Chaos Space, and Chaos Space is obviously, you know, amazing. Discarding Thunder Dragon, Roar, Dark, whatever. The Rocket Engine is nice because it's a one-card Chaos Ruler, and Chaos Ruler gets your place going. The problem a bit is that Rocket Tracer, it locks you into Dark monsters from the extra deck, so you can't go into Curious after using the Rocket Tracer, which sometimes this happens. We play a very small engine. We play 2 Rocket Tracer, 1 Recharger, 3 Quick Launch, a Boot Sector, a Ravine, and 1 Absorado. We don't play Rocket Synchron. I didn't find the space for it. This deck is so packed with different engines and stuff to go crazy with. Another interesting engine that we choose to play in the deck is the Emergency Teleport engine, with Gamma obviously being a target, but Dr. Frankenderp being our main target. Main reason, this is a different type than the other monsters in the deck. So Curious needs 3 monsters with the same attribute, but different types. We have Thunders, we have Fiends, we have all the dangers that are different types, and we have Dragons. And maybe Machine with Orbital Hydrolander. We rather want to focus on getting a lot of cards in the hand as early on as possible, so we can resolve our danger effects as effectively as possible, just get more card advantage, and we want to end the game usually on turn 1 or 2 anyway. So that's why I played the Emergency Teleport. I haven't really found if this is the correct way to do this. Of course, you could also play the Psy Reflector engine, and this is also something I want to mention in general with the deck. You could obviously also play a Needle Fiber version where you go for the, is it called Shooting Riser Dragon? I think I want to look this up actually. It's called, yeah, Shooting Riser Dragon. You can go into this and then go into Baron de Fleur on your opponent's turn with Snow. That's also an option you can go for. You can play Deskbot combos, of course, all that good stuff, but I wanted to minimize the bricks as much as possible. As you can see, we already play a ton, right? We play Fusion Destiny bricks, we play the Chaos Summoning Beast, which is sort of a brick, we play Psy-Frame Driver, alright, and then everything else you can sort of sum up as extenders. We've talked about the Thunder Dragons, we talked about the Dragons. Danger cards are just extenders to get into your Curious more easily, and the Fusion Destiny engine will help you break through boards. You also play a Gold Sarcophagus, of course. Now, here's the thing. We only play 6 going second cards, right? Is this going to be a problem? Probably yes. Down the line, it is going to be a problem. I did try a version where we actually played 15 going second cards, but for now, this is the version that I'm running with. I don't know if this is going to be the quote-unquote optimal list to run for. Probably not, but that's also where you guys come into play, and I want you guys to comment and tell me what you would change about this deck list. I really want to have an exchange about it because it is something I'm super passionate about, and I'm currently really working on hard. But I don't really have a testing circle, so it would be nice if you just have some thoughts on this. What are your opinions? Let's talk about the extra deck. The main reason I also didn't find space for the Needle Fiber engine is because the extra deck is so tight. Let's look at this together. All the cards, except for the Savage Dragon, in this extra deck are sort of mandatory. You kind of have to play them for your combos, at least for this version, to work out. So Chaos Ruler, basically your turn 1 combo. It is also really nice with Token Collector in the side deck because you can mill it, of course, and then it's an interruption on your opponent's turn. The Savage Dragon, the reason this card is not mandatory in my opinion is because you can only go for it all so often, right? It doesn't come off all the time. Sometimes if you have, you know, maybe a Snow with a Tracer, and then you can reborn the Tracer somehow, and then, or get it back with a Striker Dragon, and then go for the effect and get back the Recharger sometimes then. Or if you resolve your Gamma on your turn, you can go for Chaos Ruler early and then end on the Savage as well. It hasn't come up for me too much. Thunder Dragon Titan is a card that we use aggressively going second. This has worked for me reasonably well. You also don't need more than this. Linkuriboh and Anima for the Divine Engine combo. We play 1 Striker Dragon and 1 Romulus together, so this should be a no-brainer, right? We use any dragons to get into our Rocket Tracer engine. Then we use IP at Masquerena as our end board. Curious, Apollousa, and Access Code. You know, Apollousa and Curious for your first turn, and then Access Code you kind of need it going second. I've thought about even putting Boral Sword instead of Access Code, but you know, it's Access Code. You can't really argue with it. And then Anaconda and DPE. It's kind of necessary, even as a going second tool, just to be able to slam any 2 monsters, especially with a 60 card pile that can just throw out random monsters all the time on the board. Being able to put just 2 randomly together to create this card is crazy. Let's talk about side deck here. So this is very much adapted to the current high-rated dueling book format. So Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, and Cosmic Cyclone are mainly because I'm scared of skill drain with Eldritch. I haven't run into it that much surprisingly. Cosmic Cyclone is also, it has overlap with the Scythe combo. If you play versus PK and they don't open Brave tokens, this is still something you have to side in, of course. And if you draw this in combination with any other hand trap, it becomes extremely good. Lancia, for now, I mainly use versus the PK Brave deck. We'll have to see how Dragon Link evolves into the format. If they play Black Metal Dragon more so, if they want to play the Brave token engine as well, then this is also good versus Dragon Link. Virtual World, this is of course also pretty fine. So I like Lancia currently in the format. Token Collector and D-Barrier. So this seems a bit random because Swartsoul got hit quite a bit with Protoss being banned, in my opinion. Our deck is, weirdly enough, even though we play such a 60 card pile deck, not as good as putting up an unbreakable board. Because if the Swartsoul player opens something like Ecclesia, Vishuda, Desires, maybe a Droplet in there as well, or a Chalice, our deck gets crippled apart quite a bit. I found that the Swartsoul matchup is almost the worst matchup going first because they have so many plays go in second. So I needed something to counteract this, and I think that D-Barrier has obviously overlap with other decks in the format as well. I've tested this over like 3 days now, so I'm confident to show it to the internet. Let's look into some replays to see whether or not this theory kind of works out. So our opponent is playing the Prank Kids Brave deck. And they're opening, I think, a reasonably good hand. Actually, a very good hand. They open Thunder Dragon Fusion, Instant Fusion, Dropsies, the Water Enchantress, and Impermanence. So that means they have total combo, and they even have non-engine to back it up with. We don't open any hand traps, but that's to be expected with this 60 card deck. You don't go second and expect to see your going second cards, especially game 1. You kind of want to break their board if possible with your strong engine. So we have a reasonable enough hand. I will honestly just fast forward their turn so you can still see what they're doing, but they're just going to end on their full board. We open Emergency Teleport, Thunder Dragon Roar, the Chaos Summoning Beast, Gold Sarcophagus, and Chaos Creator. So we open one brick, but the Chaos Creator is nice here because we have Gold Sarcophagus and Emergency Teleport, so there's a high chance that we can get a lot of stuff in the grave. It's going to be pretty crazy to break this. Pretty impossible, I would say. They have the fusion, they have impermanence, so they pretty much have like 6 interruptions. They even had to, like, they even draw the Ghost Dogger on top. So what we tried to go for is the Frankenderp. We start off with this to just get an additional card to the hand. So our opponent's reading this as well. We draw the Absolute Dragon, which that's reasonably fine because we drew the Nessie for turn, which means that now that we have the Absolute in hand, our Nessie becomes a lot better in case we discard this. We could also discard the Thunder Dragon Roar. You know, we have to get a bit lucky, but that's sort of the gamble you have to take when you play these 60 card decks with the Danger Engine. We reveal the Nessie next. They have a lot of interruptions, and I just have to see more cards in order to make a good decision on what place we want to go for. They discard the Gold Sarcophagus. In hindsight, I probably should have said this first, but then again, I was confident that we could trigger the Thunder Dragon Roar down the line at some point. So we draw another Danger Nessie, so we just reveal that as well. We just need to get more cards to kind of see where our options lead us to. And this is also one of these scenarios that I was talking about where we have 2 of the same type on the field and a third one. So we can't go into Curious with these 3 monsters, unfortunately. We draw Driver, which is quite unfortunate. And we discard the Absolute Dragon. We trigger the Absolute Dragon, so that was actually a very nice discard. At this point, I will normal summon the Thunder Dragon. Roar is what I decided to do, just because so I have 3 different types. I can float with the Roar. We go into the battle phase first, though. We attack the Totally Awesome. They let it through. They don't do anything about it. We could pretty much use the battle phase as a resource to get one of their cards removed from the field. And they have 1 less interruption. So what I'm thinking about now is, well, maybe we actually have a chance. You know, if they don't have more than the interruptions that I know of, maybe we have a chance because they don't have the Bow Wow in the grave. Oh, not the Bow Wow, but the Meow Meow in the grave either. So they can only use their Raigeki once this turn. But then they threw the Impermanence, and that's kind of when I knew this probably wasn't going to work out. I still tried, though. I went for the Dragon Dark. We go into Apollosa. So this is nice because this actually trades with the Griffin pretty well. I didn't know that they had Ogre, of course, which makes it a lot worse. But in theory, so we use the Chaos Creator. We summon it here. We search the Dragon Hawk with the Dragon Dark. Summon back the Dragon Roar. Use the Chaos Creator. And then Chaos Creator, you also want to notice how Chaos Creator can also shuffle back your opponent's banished cards. That's something nice to remember. And we bring back the Curious. After being there, we go into Nightmare Phoenix, co-linking with the Apollosa. So honestly, at this point, I was like, well, it's not even looking too bad. We can force their fusion spell that's down there. We can trigger their Griffin Rider here. We can trade but still draw a card. So potentially if we draw a very good card, we can make this work out. They go for the Bow Wow. We can trade there. Yeah, they go for the Griffin. They negate it. That's fine. And we try to draw a card, see if there's anything good that we can draw here. Obviously, the unfortunate thing is that their cards are going to be protected by card effects, which sort of destroys our play. The thing is, we even draw Wyver Burster, which is one of the crazy cards I was talking about. So let's see. They summon out 2 Prankits monsters. They add 1 back because they could trigger their Trankits because they use the fusion, of course. And then we can summon the Wyver Burster. And this is where our dragon plays come into play. So we use the Wyver Burster, we use the Striker Dragon, both in the same chain. Chain blocking is Striker Dragon, sort of playing around the Ogre, though not really, because they can just Ogre the boot sector. We go into access code with the Curious and the Striker Dragon, so that's where the Curious that was summoned back off the Chaos Creator comes in very handy in my opinion. And then we go for access code effect, and we just try to destroy their entire field. And at this point I was like, well, we almost got rid of their entire field. Maybe, if they don't have too many good unknown cards in their hand, we can go for something. But then they threw the Ogre on the boot sector launch, which that basically sealed the deal. I tried to go for Unicorn, maybe draw a card, see if it's any good. We even draw the opening of the Spirit Gates, use it to go to summon back the Chaos Summoning Beast, go for Anima, try to take their monster, which goes through, but we cannot destroy the Fusion monster by card effect, which makes it a lot worse. We go for Fusion Destiny and summon the DPE, but they summoned back the Dodo and the Bow Wow in their end phase. It was just too much. I knew that they were just going to win anyway with the 2 Link monsters on the field. So for game 2, we go first this time around. We open the opening of the Spirit Gates, Nessie, Drawer, Tsushinoko, as well as Teleport. So this is it's a nice hand, you know, it works. They have Ogre, Nibiru, Droplet, Prankits monster, as well as the Draco back. So they opened a lot of hand trips. I don't remember what they did with them, to be honest. Let's go for the opening of the Spirit Gates. This is, of course, our 1-card Curious, so that's what we start with. And the 1-card Curious at least works reasonably fine versus what they have here. In my opinion, they should have Nibiru at this point, because that's where the Curious is not on the field yet, and once the Curious hits the field, then Nibiru becomes a lot worse. But it's also, you have to consider that they probably don't even know what this engine does. I think at the beginning of the match, they even said they have to read all my cards and stuff, so maybe they didn't expect the Curious like this, especially because we didn't go for it like this in game 1, so that's also an advantage that you might have with this deck in comparison to other decks in the format. It's just a lot, right, for your opponent if they don't know. So we mill with the Curious, we mill the Frankenderp. That's kind of bad. We should have chained the Emergency Teleport to the Curious effect to mill cards, but that's something I missed. I think I just put the Emergency Teleport in, so that's something to learn from. We definitely want to chain the Emergency Teleport to the Curious effect if we have it. And then I sort of accepted that the Emergency Teleport was not going to be a good card anymore. It's just a random special summon out of the deck, so I'd rather increase my chance of not discarding the danger that I reveal by keeping it in hand. We discard the Nessie, which is pretty nice. We can draw the Absolouter Dragon, which is also very nice, and I remember our draws were very good here. So we use the Jackalope, we discard the Emergency Teleport and special summon the Jackalope, and the quick launch here is an absolute god draw. Like, it's so good, and you're gonna see why. Because at this point, you know, we had Roar in the grave, we had Snow, so we could use the Snow to trigger the Roar to special summon from the deck, and we could use it to end on something like IP, Anaconda, Apollosa with Snow in the grave. But now it becomes a lot better, because we can go for Quick Launch, we can special summon the Absolouter, because we control the Rocket monster, we can go for IP here. We use the Absolouter to add another Tracer from the deck to our hand, and then we go into Striker Dragon. Striker Dragon will add the Boot Sector launch, and we will activate the Boot Sector launch, trying to special summon. They will Ghost Ogre, but I kind of had a feeling they had Nibiru. I don't know why, I just had a feeling, but it turned out to be true. So they had Nibiru. It was good that we did not negate the Ogre with the Apollosa, because at this point I was also thinking, well, we already had the quote-unquote full board for our, like the full board that we want to go for, which is Apollosa, IP, Anaconda, and Snow in the grave. And they just lost a card in their hand. They just threw a hand trap that didn't do anything, basically. So we summoned back the Snow. We have so many cards in the grave even already, so we really were not reliant on this Chaos Ruler to resolve, or the Savage Dragon, or whatever we would have gone for. So we just summon out the Dragon Dark with the Snow. We go for Anaconda and we trigger the Thunder Dragon Dark. We add the Thunder Dragon Hawk for follow-up. Next turn, we can then summon one back and trigger their effects again when we go for the DPE. And then I use Striker Dragon at the end of the main phase to destroy the Anaconda to get additional follow-up with the Rocket Tracer or just an additional card in the hand for maybe dangers that we would draw later on. Also, the reason I didn't destroy the Striker Dragon itself is obviously because we could use it again on the next turn should it survive for some reason. They draw for turn, so they don't have any great plays, but they have Droplet. But that's where Snow comes in, and this goes to show just how ridiculously good Snow is in general, and just how much it helps the Thunder Dragon deck or these Chaos variants to help play at all. And they just scoop because we summoned back the Snow after they normal summon their only play. This game 3 is going to be pretty crazy from what I remember. I think it really goes to show what the Thunder Dragon deck can do if it opens super well. They open Ghost Ogre, basically their Brave Token engine and their Pancakes engine, so they open everything they wanted. So I'll just fast forward this again and talk about what I did with this Gamma here, or what my thought process was more or less. Especially because they weren't familiar with the deck I was playing. I thought that I could have a chance to trigger the Gamma on my turn, especially when the turn gets a bit messy here and there, and we just sort of continue to play, and we do some weird stuff that they don't know anything about. They just throw interruptions randomly. It's what happens a lot of times with decks like this. So that's why I wanted to keep the Gamma in my hand to potentially throw it on my own turn, because throwing the Gamma on your own turn is your way to victory if you don't open any go in second cards. And they open the full combo, right? That's sort of your way to victory most of the time. At least if you see a possible window for it to go through. So they will just go for some plays, right? I'll just fast forward this. I don't know if their plays are good or not. I haven't really tested the Pancakes deck at all yet. I've tested it in the past, but not with the Brave Token engine. And we draw the Dark Beckoning Beast. So this hand is ridiculous if you look at it. It's ridiculous. Thunder Dragon, to get another Thunder Dragon, have 2 in hand, use it for Chaos Space. We have a lure, we can banish the Tracer, potentially draw into more Thunder Dragons, and all of this being saved more or less by Gamma in our hand. So how do we approach this situation? I started obviously with Thunder Dragon, potentially forcing something like a Lancia, like a Droll, something of that nature. They didn't have it, which is cool. So we go for Allure, we try to draw into a Thunder Dragon, we draw 2 bricks, which is not what we want to see. I think the same bricks that we drew in game 1, right? Then we use we banished the Rocket Tracer, we used the Chaos Space, discarding our Thunder Dragon. So this was a free Chaos Space in their regard. They think about whether or not they want to use the Griffin. They decide not to. Which is funny because I remember later in the turn they play into the Gamma. We use the Collapse Serpent and then we just go for the regular Dragon plays, right? This is basically what we can go for. We use the Striker and the Collapse Serpent. We get the Boot Sector and the Wyver Burster. We draw a card with Chaos Space. We draw Nessie, which Nessie was an incredible draw as well, because now we can use the Romulus that we go into with the Wyver Burster and the Striker Dragon and the Wyver Burster, even being able to chain block the Romulus here. Adding the Collapse Serpent and the Ravine. So as you can see, we have 9 cards in hand now. We have 9 cards, and I think this is what kind of overwhelmed them. Because we go for Dragon Ravine, we use it to discard the Nessie, which obviously gives us more advantage even. Now we even have, again, 9 cards in hand, but we have an additional Ravine on the field. The Absolrouter gives us another Rocket Monster. And basically what I was thinking about here is, should I risk activating the Tsushinoko? Potentially risking to discard the Dark Beckoning Beast. Because this is our most impactful normal summon, and we still had to deal with a double Raigeki, the Griffin Rider, and maybe a hand trap that we knew was here, right? So that was 4 interruptions, but a double Raigeki is pretty hard on a combo deck like ours. I first thought that discarding the Tracer would be bad, but then I realized Boot Sector can obviously also special summon it from the grave because they have like 4 monsters on the field, so that was reasonably alright. So I set the Boot Sector first in case they would discard the Rocket Tracer, which they actually did. So we draw another card, we draw the Jackalope, which is once again a really good draw. If you have so many cards in hand, being able to just have these free special summon that nets you more card advantage, gets monsters in the grave, draws you cards and stuff, it's incredible. And then we use the Tsushinoko and the Romulus to go for Unicorn and force their Griffin Rider. So we discard the Driver, which is funny because we even sort of pushed the Gamma into their face with this, and they negate it with their Griffin Rider. Now we use the Boot Sector, they throw the Ogre, and then we can use the Gamma. And I think this was the point where the game really turned tables, because now we have the driver, the Gamma, and the Rocket Tracer. At this point, in my opinion, they should have activated Bow Wow, go for the fusion spell, and Raigeki our board right here now. But they didn't do that, so they let us go for Chaos Ruler. I don't know if they didn't expect us to go for it. I don't know, maybe previously, in the previous games, we didn't go for Chaos Ruler, so I don't know if they didn't see the option, the line that we had, but we go for Chaos Ruler. They think about it, but they just let it through, and we mill double Token Collector and Thunder Dragon Fusion, as well as Recharger. So Recharger is a bit of an unfortunate draw, but it's actually going to turn out to be amazing. You're going to see why in just a moment. Thunder Dragon Fusion, of course, amazing, and then double Token Collector is also super fine. We don't get like any good mills per se, like something that we really want to add, like a danger monster or something, but it's fine. We just add the Rocket Recharger because we don't want it to be in our grave at all. We normal summon the Dark Beckoning Beast, so we were kind of forced to make a play, but we couldn't use the Jackalope because if we discard the Dark Beckoning Beast, we don't have a really good play anymore. We, at the opening of the Spirit Gates, we activate the opening of the Spirit Gates, adding another Dark Beckoning Beast. So Dark Beckoning Beast being nice also because it replaces itself, and this is the point where they have to use the fusion spell. I mean, we could go for so many plays otherwise. So they just resolve all of their Prankets effects, they summon a bunch of monsters, they get their fusion spell, so also kind of nice of them that they try to play around sort of any card that would try to gain control of their monster by summoning it here in the extra monster zone. So examples would be the Geonator that could take control, or the Anima, of course, which we could play with the Chaos Summoning Beast. So they use the Battle Butler and destroy our field. We use the Recharger because a monster special summon from the extra deck, a dark monster, was destroyed. We summon back the Unicorn. So special summoning back the Unicorn is important because it allows us to go into the access code later to force more of their interruption. We use the Jackalope, discarding Dark Beckoning Beast, summoning it, drawing a lure, which is... Guys, this was insane. This was an insane game. Like, it's not your standard game, but I kind of want to show off what this deck can really do under its best circumstances. Now, I did a mistake here. I should have gone for Apollosa with these two monsters, because that would have dealt with their Battle Butler anyway. I kind of forgot that they were protected by the Bow Wow, which, you know, I'm a little Dumbo, so this happens. But we activate the Allure, and obviously because we're the best players, we draw into Dragon Dark. Dragon Dark triggers, adding the Thunder Dragon Roar, because Thunder Dragon Roar can add back the Thunder Dragon Fusion, which can be used to sort of have an aggressive play. So this Thunder Dragon engine drawing into this here was super important. We should have gone into Apollosa here, but what we did instead was go for Access Code. It wasn't the best play, you know, they're just going to destroy it with the Battle Butler later on when they trigger it, but at least we could destroy the entire field. We used Dragon Roar, we used the Thunder Dragon Fusion. So Titan obviously can't be destroyed by card effect, so it's sort of immune to the Battle Butler, which is very nice. We use Thunder Dragon in our hand to add another Thunder Dragon, but mainly to trigger our Titan to be able to destroy the Prankets pranks. And we use two Thunder Dragons just so we have a better follow-up play also with Chaos Space and potentially a Dragon Hawk or something that we want to banish later. We attack the Battle Butler, they use the effect to destroy our access code. We use the Titan to run over one of their fancies. So our goal is to only leave them with one Prankets monster. That's the main thing we want to focus on. The reason being, they already used Meow Meow and they don't have follow-up. Prankets cannot play anymore with only one Prankets monster. We used the opening of the Spirit Gates, obviously being able to discard a card, special summon a Fiend monster with 0 defense. We summon back the Chaos Summoning Beast, and that's where Anima comes into play. Oh my god, I was so happy we had a way to get rid of their Prankets monster, even though they're protected by, you know, destruction by card effect, and we already used the battle phase. So we use Anima, get rid of that, and then we summon back the Chaos Ruler, go for Anaconda, and summon out the DPE. We were able to break their entire field and still end on the DPE with Token Collector as well in our grave. Here's another, I think, sort of neat play that we went for. They didn't really have anything going for them too much. I think this would have been a win regardless, but they activate the right and they chain the Cold by the Grave to the right on the Token Collector. So what we do is, because we wanted to get rid of this Prankets monster anyway at some point, we use the Phoenix Enforcer to destroy their Prankets Dropsies as well as our Titan, protecting our Titan, banishing the Token Collector that they targeted with the Cold by the Grave so that our other Token Collector could resolve and destroy the token. I don't know how relevant this was. Probably it was even relevant because they opened emergency teleport, so maybe they would have gone for some crazy play. I don't know. Token collector resolves, and we destroy their token, and that was basically GG at that point. I think this was a nice replay to show off, to see what the deck can do going second when it doesn't play versus crazy stuff like Scythe. It can push through like 3 to 4 negations with its engine if it draws reasonably well. Let's look at another replay. This next replay is a match that I lost actually. I wanted to show this off to explain why I chose to play Token Collector as well as Dimensional Barrier now in the side deck, because the Swartel deck can pretty much just destroy you when they go second, because they have so many inherent good going second cards. They don't even rely on their non-engine, so that's kind of a problematic matchup, I feel like. We normal summon the Dark Beckoning Beast once again. We go for our normal plays. I will just fast forward this once again. We discard the Nessie. We are able to add another danger monster from our deck to our hand. And we go for Curious. And at this point, they obviously ash the Curious, which is the right play. You know, you should always ash the Curious if you have the chance to and it's not chain blocked. Then we use the Danger Jackalope in our hand. They are a sniper and hit it out of our hand, and we just go for Anaconda and go for DPE. At this point, I was like, well, we still have DPE plus Dropland, and if we get another turn, you know, why not? Like, it's not the worst, but obviously not the best either. They open Ecclesia, Vishuda, Moye, Longyan, Emergence. I mean, to be fair, this is a very strong hand, but you have to expect your Swartel opponent to open Swartel cards, right? And the thing is, even 3 of those would have broke our board, I think, without a problem. So they special summon the Vishuda. I let it go through. In my opinion, they maybe did a mistake here, because they now use the Vishuda to target the DPE, and we just chain the DPE, but instead of destroying their Monk, we destroy our Anaconda and the DPE. So they just thought that we want to destroy their Monk, but we destroy the DPE and the Anaconda to play around Ecclesia, which happened to be correct because they had it in their hand, but it didn't really matter because they had Emergence anyway. They just go for Taya, they use Taya, we use Droplet, get rid of Roar, and then they summon Longyan, and I just realized, okay, that's immediately game over. So you see, even though they didn't open any non-engine except for Ash, which we only had a subpar hand, we still, like, super lost. We lost so hard. They open Longyan, double Vishuda, Gamma, as well as Desires. And we open a pretty good hand. Like, it's not the worst, it's not the best either. Like, from this, judging from this hand, you would think that we play some Dragon Link deck. We draw the Chaos Summoning Beast and Danger Nessie from Allure, so that's perfectly alright. We banish the brick more or less out of our hand. We summon out the Tracer from our hand. We use the Nessie just because we don't really need the Boot Sector, and the Absorata would be nice in our grave. We get the Nessie sniped out of our hand. We use Jackalope to special summon it, and then we get hit with the Boot Sector, I suppose, exactly, and we draw into Dragon Dark. So, of course, the Thunder Dragons being bricks as well, if you draw them and you don't really have a way to trigger them. So we special summon out the Absorata, right? That makes sense. And then we use the Rocket Tracer on the Absorata to summon the Recharger and add the Tracer from our deck to our hand. So at this point, I gave up on being able to make Curious. It was not really possible with this hand. We didn't have enough extenders. And I had the Fusion Destiny face down as well. So I know that I knew that we could at least put up like something like IP with DPE and a Chaos Ruler or something. So we use Chaos Ruler. They don't choose to Gamma it. Our mill was horrible. We only milled Gamma Driver Thunder Dragon, so it's not the best. We add back the Thunder Dragon just because Driver and Gamma obviously not doing anything. We use the Thunder Dragon to get both in the grave. We go for IP Masquerena, and we use the Chaos Ruler to banish the Thunder Dragon Dark from our hand. That makes sense. So we are able to trigger the Thunder Dragon Dark here, and we are... that's why we... Oh, yes, damn it. That makes sense, all right. We use the Thunder Dragon to get another two Thunder Dragons in the grave, so we could add the Fusion. So at least we have that play. We normal summon the Rocket Tracer. So, and we go for Anaconda. So you might think, well, this is kind of unnecessary. You already have the Fusion Destiny face down, but I don't know. I was kind of confident that if they play Swartel, there's a high chance they have a hand trap that they just holding for the end of my combo. You know, they didn't look like a bad player. So I was expecting from them that they would use their hand traps in the best scenarios they could possibly. We use the Anaconda, we dump the Fusion Destiny, and that's obviously where the set Fusion Destiny comes into play, and we can activate this. We also set the Thunder Dragon Fusion just to be able to destroy it with the DP It's kind of a sad state for Thunder Dragons when you set the fusion rather than activate it just because your boss monster doesn't do anything, but that's just how it is, I guess, nowadays, especially in the TCG. Master Duel being a lot more generous here with the Thunder Dragons, but they activate the Zayas, banish 10, draw 2. They have impermanence, double Long Yan, double Vishuda, and an Ash, so we use the IP to go into Unicorn because they use the impermanence on the DPE, making it so it's not usable. And also, at this point, I was thinking, well, you know, I guess we just hope that they completely bricked. They would have been able to out the IP anyway by bouncing it, so... And this way we get our Thunder Dragon out the hand, which is important to get the additional draws next turn. But it didn't matter, because obviously they just went for Long Yan, they go for Baron. They burn us for 1,200. We special summon the Ash, which doesn't do anything. They still have their Ash, so they can Ash our draw 2, which they will do, and then the Thunder Dragon fusion, and they will just negate that. And as you can see, even though they opened very suboptimally for a Sword Soul deck, they were still able to break our board so easily, because DPE is not really the best card versus Sword Soul. So, as you can see, that's the reason why we put the Token Collector and the Dimensional Barrier in the deck. I feel like it is kind of necessary. But now we've talked so much about card choices, gameplay, deck list, all that theorizing stuff, and so on. Now I want to know, how does it work for you? Try to build the deck and let me know in the comments how it's working for you. What will you possibly change about it? What are the problems that you're facing when you play the deck? And what are maybe some different takes on the deck that you would recommend? It's been so much fun to talk about this TCG format deck list. You know, it's been a while. We've played so much Master Duel, we've made so much Master Duel content, and there's going to be more Master Duel content to come, because they're both very enjoyable for me. And I think Master Duel, there are a lot of new players coming into the game, and I feel like I can help those a bit more than the TCG players that are already seasoned veterans and are very good at the game already. I hope that I can bring as many new players into the game as possible, because I believe a strong community will make the game even bigger and even better. And with that being said, I guess that's a good ending word. Let's leave it at this. Hope you have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the video as well. I will see you very soon. See you.